The bottle tilted toward the baby's mouth. "Don't give him that." 8-year-old Amara lunged forward, her small hands grabbing at her stepmother's arm. Victoria backhanded her across the face. The child slammed into the kitchen cabinet and crumpled to the floor. Baby Marcus whimpered. 6 months old. Starving. The rubber nipple touched his lips. The front door opened. Footsteps, a briefcase hitting marble, and millionaire Marcus Montgomery III walked into a nightmare he never saw coming, one that would expose a revenge plot 18 months in the making, orchestrated by a woman who'd married him for one reason only: to destroy his dead wife's children. Comment your city below. Let's see how far this story travels. Marcus Montgomery III had closed a $200 million deal in Singapore that morning. He'd shaken hands with 3 CEOs, signed contracts that would reshape the telecommunications industry across Southeast Asia, boarded his private jet, feeling like a man who had conquered the world. Now, he stood frozen in his own kitchen doorway, and none of it mattered. "Daddy?" Amara's voice broke on the word. She pressed herself against the cabinet, one hand clutching her cheek where a red mark was already blooming. Her dark curly hair hung tangled across her face. Her eyes, God, her eyes, they were wild with something he'd never seen in his daughter before. Terror. Pure animal terror. "What the hell is going on here?" Marcus dropped his briefcase. It hit the marble floor with a crack that echoed through the kitchen. Victoria spun around, and for one fraction of a second, one instant that would burn itself into Marcus's memory forever. He saw her face clearly, twisted, ugly, full of something that looked like hatred. Then the mask slid back into place. "Darling?" Victoria's voice went bright and sweet. She shifted baby Marcus in her arms, moving the bottle away from his mouth. "You're home early. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." Marcus didn't look at her. He looked at his daughter. Amara was shaking, actually trembling, her small body pressed against the cabinet like she was trying to disappear into the wood. She stared at Victoria with an expression Marcus had seen before in war documentaries, in photographs of refugees, in the eyes of people who had learned that survival meant silence. "Amara." Marcus moved toward her slowly, the way you'd approach a wounded animal. "Sweetheart, are you hurt?" "She's fine," Victoria said quickly. "Just being dramatic. You know how she is always running around crashing into things. She tripped over her own feet again." Marcus knelt down in front of his daughter. Up close, the mark on her cheek was unmistakable. Not a bruise from falling. A handprint, red and angry and fresh. "Amara, look at me." She looked at Victoria first. Then slowly she turned to her father. "Tell me what happened." Her lip trembled. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but silently. No sound. Not even a whimper. Like she'd learned to cry without making noise. "I fell, Daddy." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, I fell down." "You didn't fall." "Marcus, honestly." Victoria laughed, but there was an edge to it now. "Children trip. It happens. You've been gone so much you've forgotten what it's like to be quiet." The words came out cold. Hard. Marcus didn't recognize his own voice. Victoria's mouth snapped shut. Marcus reached out and gently brushed Amara's hair away from her face. The handprint on her cheek was clearer now. 4 distinct finger marks. "Who hit you?" Amara's eyes darted to Victoria again. That look, that terrified, desperate look, told Marcus everything he needed to know. But he needed to hear it. "Amara, I'm your father. I will protect you. But I need you to tell me the truth. Who hit you?" "I can't," Amara whispered. "Why not?" "Because..." Her voice cracked. "Because she said she'd make Marcus Jr. disappear. She said she'd send him away, and I'd never see him again, and it would be my fault." Marcus's blood went cold. He turned to look at Victoria. She was standing perfectly still, the baby in her arms, the bottle still clutched in her hand. Her face had gone blank. Empty. Like a mannequin. "What is she talking about?" I have no idea. Victoria's voice was flat now. No more sweetness. No more charm. She's been acting out lately, making up stories. I've been meaning to talk to you about getting her professional help. Give me my son. Excuse me. Give me Marcus Jr. Now. Victoria didn't move. Marcus stood up slowly. He was 6'3", 220 pounds. He'd built his fortune by being the most intimidating person in every room he entered. He'd never used that presence against his wife before. Victoria, hand me my son. I will not ask again. Something flickered in her eyes. Calculation, weighing options. Then she smiled a thin, cold smile that didn't reach her eyes and held the baby out. Of course, darling. Whatever you want. Marcus took Marcus Jr., carefully cradling him against his chest. The baby was light. Too light. Marcus had held his son during video calls from hotel rooms around the world. Had made funny faces at the screen while Marcus Jr. gurgled and kicked his chubby legs. Had counted down the days until he could hold him again. But this baby wasn't chubby. This baby's arms were thin, his ribs pressed against his skin. His cheeks were hollow, and his brown skin had a grayish tint that made Marcus's stomach turn. When did he last eat, war? This morning. It's 7 o'clock at night. He's been napping. Marcus looked at the bottle Victoria was still holding. Clear liquid caught the light. What's in that formula? Show me. Victoria's jaw tightened. Marcus, this is ridiculous. I've been caring for these children for over a year. You fly off to Singapore and London and Tokyo, and I'm here every single day, dealing with a colicky baby and a daughter who resents me, and you come home and act like I'm some kind of... Give me the bottle. She thrust it at him. Marcus unscrewed the cap with one hand, holding Marcus Jr. against his shoulder with the other. He sniffed. The smell hit him immediately. Sharp, chemical, wrong. He touched a drop to his tongue. Water. And something else. Something that burned. Is this alcohol? Don't be absurd. Is this vodka in my son's bottle? It's gripe water. An old family recipe. A tiny bit helps him sleep. Gripe water doesn't smell like Smirnoff. Victoria's mask cracked. Just for a second. Just long enough for Marcus to see the truth underneath. He cries constantly, she said, her voice going hard. All night, every night. Do you have any idea what that's like? You're in your 5-star hotels with your room service and your king-sized beds, and I'm here listening to him scream for hours. Sometimes he needs help settling down. A few drops never hurt anyone. Marcus stared at her. This woman he'd married 18 months ago. This woman he'd trusted with his children. This woman who'd seemed like an answer to prayer when he was drowning in grief after Jasmine died. He didn't know her at all. Amara, he said quietly, not taking his eyes off Victoria. Go upstairs. Lock your door. Don't come out until I come get you. But Daddy, go, now. Amara scrambled up and ran. Marcus heard her footsteps pounding up the stairs, heard her door slam, heard the lock click. Only then did he speak again. You're going to tell me exactly what you've been doing to my children. All of it. Right now. Victoria laughed. Actually laughed. Your children, she said. It's always your children, Jasmine's children. Do you have any idea what it's like to live in a dead woman's shadow? To sleep in her bed, wear her jewelry, raise her babies, and know that every time you look at me, you're wishing I was her. This isn't about Jasmine. It's always about Jasmine. Victoria's voice rose. Perfect Jasmine. Sainted Jasmine. The love of your life, who died and left you with 2 children you don't know how to raise. You married me because you needed someone to clean up your mess, not because you loved me. I married you because I thought you would love my children. I tried. Victoria's eyes were blazing now. I tried to love them, but Amara looks at me like I'm dirt, like I'm not good enough to breathe the same air as her precious mother. And the baby. God, the baby never stops crying. Nothing I do is ever enough. So you starved them, beat them, poisoned them. I disciplined them. There's a difference. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Hot and terrible. He'd felt this way only once before in his life, the night the doctors told him Jasmine wasn't going to make it. The night he'd walked out of the hospital and punched a concrete wall until his knuckles bled. He couldn't afford rage right now. He needed to think. "I'm calling the doctor," he said. "He's coming here tonight to examine both children." "It's after hours. I don't care." "You're overreacting." "My son weighs nothing. My daughter is covered in bruises. You just tried to feed a baby vodka." Marcus's voice was quiet, deadly. "I'm not overreacting. I'm just getting started." Victoria's eyes narrowed. Something shifted in her face. "Be careful, Marcus." Her voice had changed, gone cold, almost mocking. "You don't know what you're dealing with." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning. You think you're so smart. You think you see everything. But you've been blind for 18 months. Blind and stupid, and so desperate for someone to mother your children that you never once asked yourself why a woman like me would want a man like you." "What's that supposed to mean?" Victoria smiled. It was the most terrifying smile Marcus had ever seen. "Ask yourself this, darling. How did I know your wife worked at Memorial Hospital? How did I know her schedule? Her routine? The names of her children? Her favorite flowers? The exact words she used when she talked about her family?" Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying nothing happens by accident." Victoria picked up her purse from the counter, slung it over her shoulder. "I'm going to the guest room now. We can discuss this more tomorrow after you've calmed down." "You're not going anywhere until you explain." "I'm going to the guest room." Victoria cut him off. "Unless you want to physically stop me. And then what, you'll tell the police you manhandled your wife? The courts love that kind of thing." She walked past him. At the kitchen door she paused. "Sweet dreams, Marcus. Enjoy your homecoming." She was gone. Marcus stood in the kitchen, his son's too light body pressed against his chest, and tried to make sense of what had just happened. "How did I know your wife worked at Memorial Hospital?" Jasmine had worked at Memorial for 12 years. Oncology nurse. She'd loved her patients, had cried with their families, had brought that same compassion home to her own children. How did I know her schedule? Victoria had claimed to work for a charity when they met. She'd been volunteering at a grief support group for widowers. Marcus had been attending for 6 weeks when she first approached him. She'd been so kind, so understanding, so eager to listen to him talk about Jasmine, about the children, about how lost he felt trying to raise them alone. How did I know the names of her children? He'd told her everything, everything, like a fool, the exact words she used when she talked about her family. Marcus's knees buckled. He grabbed the counter with his free hand, holding Marcus Jr. tight against his shoulder. Victoria hadn't met Jasmine. That was impossible. Jasmine had died 2 years ago. Victoria hadn't entered Marcus's life until 6 months after that. But she said she'd make Marcus Jr. disappear. She said Mommy should have taken us with her when she died. She puts bad things in Thomas's bottle to make him sleep. Those weren't the actions of a stressed-out stepmother. Those were the actions of someone who wanted these children to suffer. Why? Marcus pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Dialed a number from memory. William's residence. "George, it's Marcus Montgomery. I need you at my house, now." A pause. "Marcus, it's past 8 o'clock. What's—" "My children are hurt. My son may have been poisoned. I need you here tonight." "I'm on my way." Marcus hung up and looked down at his son. Marcus Jr. had fallen asleep against his shoulder. His breathing was shallow. Too shallow. His tiny body was warm, but not the healthy warmth of a thriving baby. More like a fever. Like his body was fighting something. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered. "I'm so sorry, little man. Daddy's here now. Daddy's going to fix this." But even as he said the words, he knew they weren't entirely true. He couldn't fix what he didn't understand. And right now, he understood nothing. Dr. George Williams arrived in 23 minutes. Marcus met him at the door, Marcus Jr., still cradled in his arms. The doctor took one look at the baby, and his face went pale. "Good Lord, Marcus. When did he start losing weight?" "I don't know. I've been traveling. I thought I trusted—" "Let's get him examined. And Amara, too." They set up in the living room. Marcus Jr. first. George worked in silence, his movements gentle but precise. Temperature, heart rate, reflexes, weight. When he read the number on the scale, he swore under his breath. 12 pounds. Is that bad? He should be 18, at minimum. George looked up at Marcus. This baby has been starving Marcus for months. His muscle tone is almost non-existent. His fontanelle is sunken, that's severe dehydration. And these, he lifted Marcus Jr.'s onesie. Bruises, small dark bruises along the baby's ribs. These are from being held too tightly, squeezed, repeatedly. George's voice shook with anger. Someone has been hurting this child. There's more, Marcus said. He told George about the bottle, the vodka, Victoria's admission. George's face went from pale to white. Alcohol, on an infant. He ran a hand over his face. Marcus, this is attempted murder. This baby could have, if you hadn't come home early. I know. Where is she? Where's Victoria? Guest room, upstairs. And you're sure Amara is safe? Her door is locked. I told her not to come out. Get her, now. I need to examine her too. Marcus went upstairs. He knocked on Amara's door. Sweetheart, it's Daddy. Dr. Williams is here. I need you to come downstairs. Silence. Then small and afraid. Is she there? No, she's in the guest room. She won't hurt you again. I promise. The lock clicked. The door opened a crack. Amara's face appeared. Her cheek had darkened, now the handprint was clearly visible, already turning purple at the edges. Come here, baby girl. Marcus knelt down and opened his arms. Amara threw herself into them. She was shaking again, crying still silently, still without sound, like she'd trained herself to be invisible. I'm sorry, Daddy. Her voice was muffled against his chest. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I wanted to tell you. Every time you called, I wanted to say something, but she was always listening. She said if I told you anything, she'd know. She said you'd believe her and not me. She said, shh. Marcus held her tighter. It's okay. You're safe now. I believe you. I will always believe you. She hurts Marcus Jr. Amara sobbed. She barely feeds him. She puts the bad stuff in his bottle to make him sleep. She says we're mistakes. She says we should have died with Mommy. Each word was a knife in Marcus's chest. How long? He pulled back to look at his daughter's face. How long has this been happening? Since the beginning. Amara wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Since right after you got married. At first she was just mean, telling me I was bad, making me do chores. But then it got worse. She started hitting me, locking me in my room. And when Marcus Jr. was born, and you started traveling more, she broke off. Tell me. All of it. She stopped feeding him, just water mostly, and the bad stuff when he cried too much. I tried to sneak him formula. I tried to feed him myself when she wasn't looking. But she caught me. Marcus looked at his daughter's hands, the scars on her palms. What did she do when she caught you? Amara didn't answer. She didn't have to. I'm going to make her pay for this. Marcus's voice was quiet, steady, but inside, a furnace was roaring. I promise you, Amara, on your mother's grave, that woman will never touch you again. The examination took an hour. Amara had 5 bruises in various stages of healing, burns on both palms, signs of malnutrition, dark circles under her eyes from chronic sleep deprivation. George documented everything: photographs, measurements, written notes. When he finished, he pulled Marcus aside. I'm legally required to report this to Child Protective Services. Do it. I'm also recommending immediate hospitalization for Marcus Jr. He needs IV fluids monitoring, possibly a blood transfusion depending on what the toxicology shows. Whatever he needs. And Marcus, George hesitated. I've known you for 15 years. I delivered both your children. I was at Jasmine's funeral. So I'm going to be straight with you. Please. This wasn't stress. This wasn't a woman who got overwhelmed and made bad decisions. This was systematic, calculated, months of deliberate starvation and abuse. Someone who does this, they're not just cruel. They're dangerous. I know. Do you? Because she's still in your house, and your children are still here, and until she's in custody, I'm not letting them out of my sight. Good. George picked up his phone. I'm calling the hospital now. I'll have an ambulance here in 20 minutes. George, wait. Marcus looked toward the stairs. She said something. Before she went to the guest room. She said she implied she knew Jasmine. Knew things about her that she couldn't have known unless what? Unless she'd been watching us, planning this, for a long time. George stared at him. Are you saying this was premeditated? I don't know what I'm saying. Marcus ran a hand over his face. I don't know anything anymore. I thought I knew this woman. I married her. I trusted her with my children. And now you need evidence. George's voice was sharp. Proof. Documentation. If she's got a history, if this was planned, you'll need more than your daughter's testimony to put her away. How do I get that? Start with her background. Everything she told you, verify it. Employment history, references, previous addresses. If she lied about knowing Jasmine, she probably lied about everything else. Marcus nodded. He was already pulling out his phone. Already dialing David in Singapore. His assistant answered on the second ring. Sir, is everything all right? No. I need you to run a full background check on Victoria. Everything. Employment, education, previous marriages, criminal record, anything you can find. Sir, I actually started looking into her accounts last week. You asked me to monitor household expenses, and I noticed some irregularities. What kind of irregularities? Large transfers. Over $200,000 moved from the household account to an offshore account in her name. And sir, her employment references don't check out. The charity she claimed to work for doesn't exist. I was going to call you tomorrow. Call me now. Tell me everything. The ambulance arrived at 9:47 p.m. Marcus rode with Marcus Jr. Amara pressed against his side. George followed in his own car. Victoria didn't come downstairs. Didn't try to stop them. Didn't say a word. But as Marcus carried Marcus Jr. out the front door, he looked up at the guest room window. She was standing there, watching. And even from 2 stories below in the dark, he could see her smile. The hospital was chaos. Doctors, nurses, specialists. Everyone moving with urgent efficiency around Marcus Jr.'s tiny body. IV fluids, blood tests, toxicology screens. Marcus sat in the waiting room with Amara holding her hand, watching the clock tick past midnight. His phone buzzed. David. Sir, I found something. Tell me. Victoria Whitmore, that's her real name. She was married twice before. The first husband died 5 years ago, fell down the stairs. Police investigated but never filed charges. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. And the second? Divorced. He filed a restraining order, claimed she tried to poison him. But he dropped the charges and paid her a settlement. A large one. How large? $250,000. The same amount she'd stolen from Marcus's accounts. There's more, sir. Before her first marriage, she worked as a nurse at Memorial Hospital. Marcus stopped breathing. When? 12 years ago, until she was fired for stealing medication. Sir, the person who reported her, was Jasmine Montgomery. The phone nearly slipped from Marcus's hand. Sir, are you there? I'm here. I'm sorry, sir. I know this is... Send me everything, every document, every record. I want it all. Yes, sir. Marcus hung up. He looked at Amara sleeping fitfully against his shoulder. He looked down the hall toward the room where doctors were fighting to save his son. And he understood finally exactly what Victoria was. Not a stepmother, not a con artist, a predator. A woman who had waited 12 years to take revenge on a dead woman by destroying her children. The hospital fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Marcus read through the documents David had sent. Page after page, file after file, each one peeling back another layer of the lie he'd been living. Victoria Whitmore, born 1978 in Syracuse, New York, nursing degree from a community college, employed at Memorial Hospital from 2010 to 2012. Terminated for theft of controlled substances. The termination report was signed by the head nurse, but the complaint had been filed by someone else, Jasmine Montgomery, RN. Marcus stared at his dead wife's signature on a 12-year-old document. Her handwriting, he'd recognize it anywhere. The way she looped her J's. The decisive slash of her M. Jasmine had gotten Victoria fired, and Victoria had spent the next decade planning her revenge. Mr. Montgomery. Marcus looked up. Dr. Keisha Okonkwo stood in the doorway, her dark face grave. How is he? Stable. For now. She sat down across from him, her voice low. The toxicology results came back. There was alcohol in his system. Not a lethal amount, but for a baby this malnourished, this dehydrated, another week of this, and we'd be having a very different conversation. Marcus closed his eyes. There's something else, Dr. Okonkwo continued. We found traces of diphenhydramine, Benadryl, mixed with the alcohol. It's a combination that would make him extremely drowsy, essentially sedating him. She was drugging him to keep him quiet. That's what it looks like. Mr. Montgomery, I've already contacted Child Protective Services. This is criminal abuse. The police will want to interview you. Good. I want them to arrest her. They'll need evidence beyond the medical findings. Your daughter's testimony documentation of the abuse? I have it, all of it. Marcus held up his phone. Employment records, financial fraud, a pattern of behavior going back years. She's done this before. Dr. Okonkwo's eyes widened. Before? Her first husband died under suspicious circumstances. Her second accused her of poisoning him. Marcus's voice was flat, hollow. I married a serial predator, and I handed her my children. You didn't know. I should have. Marcus looked at Amara still sleeping in the chair beside him. Her face was peaceful now, but even in sleep her brow furrowed occasionally. Bad dreams. Months of bad dreams. I should have seen it. I should have been here. You're here now. That's what matters. Is it? Marcus laughed bitterly. My son almost died. My daughter has been beaten and burned and terrorized for 18 months. And I was in Singapore closing deals while it happened. Dr. Okonkwo leaned forward. Mr. Montgomery, listen to me. Abusers are experts at hiding what they do. They choose victims carefully. They isolate them. They create fear that keeps everyone silent. You were manipulated just like your children were. The guilt you're feeling, that's natural. But it won't help them heal. What will help is making sure that woman can never hurt anyone again. Marcus nodded slowly. She was right. Guilt could wait. Justice couldn't. Detective Sarah Kim arrived at 7:00 a.m. She was sharp-eyed and serious, her dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She shook Marcus's hand firmly and got straight to the point. Mr. Montgomery, I've reviewed the preliminary reports from CPS and the hospital. This is one of the most clear-cut abuse cases I've seen in 15 years. But I need to understand the full picture before we move forward. Ask me anything. How did you meet Victoria Whitmore? Marcus told her. The grief support group. The gentle conversations. The way she'd seemed to understand his pain, his loneliness, his desperate need for help with the children. She targeted you, Detective Kim said. It wasn't a question. Yes. And you had no idea about her connection to your late wife. None. She never mentioned Memorial Hospital, never mentioned nursing. She told me she worked for a children's charity which apparently doesn't exist. It doesn't. We checked. Detective Kim made a note. What about references? Background checks. Marcus felt his face flush with shame. I didn't do any. I was grieving. I wasn't thinking clearly. She seemed so perfect, so willing to help. I never questioned it. Don't beat yourself up. Con artists are good at what they do. That's why they're called con artists. Detective Kim flipped to a new page. Tell me about last night, everything you saw and heard. Marcus went through it again. The scream, the bottle, the bruise on Amara's cheek, Victoria's admissions, the vodka, the gripe water excuse, her rant about living in Jasmine's shadow. She said something else, Marcus added. Something that didn't make sense at the time. She asked me how she knew my wife's schedule, her routine, the names of our children, like she was taunting me. Did she explain what she meant? No, but I found out anyway. Marcus handed over his phone with David's documents. Victoria worked at the same hospital as my wife. Jasmine reported her for stealing medication, got her fired. Victoria's been planning this ever since. Detective Kim scrolled through the files. Her expression grew darker with each page. Jesus Christ. There's more. Her first husband died in a fall. Her second husband accused her of poisoning him. And neither case resulted in charges. The first was ruled accidental. The second husband dropped the complaint and paid her to go away. So she's done this before. Married men abused their families, extracted money, disappeared. Detective Kim looked up. Mr. Montgomery, I'm going to be honest with you. This woman is extremely dangerous, and right now she's still in your house. I know. We need to arrest her today, but I want to do it right. I want to make sure the charges stick. Detective Kim stood up. Can you get your daughter to give a formal statement on video with a child advocate present? She'll do it. She's ready to talk. Good. I'm going to get a warrant for Victoria's arrest. I'm also going to request a search of your house. We may find additional evidence. Financial records, communications with her sister. Anything that shows premeditation. Her sister, Diana Whitmore. She runs a bed and breakfast in upstate New York. Based on what your assistant found, she may have been helping Victoria move money offshore. We're looking into her as a possible accomplice. Marcus nodded. Whatever you need from me, you have it. I want her gone. I want her in prison for the rest of her life. Then let's make sure that happens. Amara gave her statement at 10 a.m. A child advocate named Mrs. Patterson sat with her. Gentle, patient, trained in trauma-informed interviewing. Marcus watched through a two-way mirror as his daughter described 18 months of hell. She hit me the first time 3 days after the wedding, Amara said. Her voice was small but steady. Daddy had just left for London. She slapped me across the face and said I needed to learn my place. What did you do? Mrs. Patterson asked. I cried, and she hit me again. She said crying was weak. She said my mother had been weak too. That's why she got sick and died. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Did she hit you often? Almost every day. Sometimes just slaps. Sometimes she'd throw me against the wall. Once she pushed me down the stairs. She told Daddy I fell. And you didn't tell anyone? Amara shook her head. She said if I told she'd hurt Marcus Jr., she said she'd make him disappear and it would be my fault. She said nobody would believe me anyway because she was the adult and I was just a kid. What about your baby brother? How did she treat him? Amara's face crumpled. She barely fed him, just water mostly, and the sleepy stuff in his bottle. He cried so much in the beginning, but then he stopped. He got too weak to cry. Did you try to help him? I snuck into the kitchen at night. I tried to make bottles for him, real formula, but she caught me. What happened when she caught you? Amara looked down at her hands, at the scars on her palms. She turned on the stove. She said I needed to learn what happened to children who disobeyed. Behind the mirror, Marcus turned away. He couldn't watch anymore. He walked to the bathroom, locked himself in a stall, and threw up until there was nothing left. The arrest happened at 2:00 p.m. Marcus wasn't there. Detective Kim had advised him to stay at the hospital with the children, but she called him the moment it was over. "We got her. She's in custody." How did she react? Calm, too calm. She didn't resist, didn't argue, just smiled and said we'd be sorry. Sorry for what? She didn't elaborate. But Mr. Montgomery, we searched the house. We found things. What kind of things? A laptop with files, hundreds of files. Photographs of your family going back years. Your wife's work schedule. Your travel itinerary. The children's school records. She's been surveilling you since before Jasmine died. Marcus felt the floor shift beneath his feet. What are you saying? I'm saying her revenge didn't start when she met you at that grief support group. It started years earlier. She was watching, waiting, planning. Detective Kim paused. There are also videos. Videos of herself, with your children, abusing them, taunting them, making Amara apologize for being born, making her repeat phrases over and over. What phrases? I'm sorry I'm alive. I should have died with mommy. Things like that. Marcus couldn't speak. She kept them as trophies, Mr. Montgomery. Evidence of her power over them. It's sick, but it's also the best evidence we could ask for. She recorded herself committing crimes. No defense attorney in the world can explain that away. What happens now? She'll be arraigned tomorrow. I'm pushing for no bail. She's a flight risk with assets offshore. The DA is already talking about multiple felony charges. Child abuse, attempted murder, kidnapping. Kidnapping. When she took Amara from Dr. Williams's house. Marcus's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? When did she take Amara? Silence on the line. Mr. Montgomery, you didn't know. Know what? What happened at Dr. Williams's house? I thought someone told you, last night while you were at the hospital. Victoria left the guest room. She went to Dr. Williams's house and took Amara. Marcus's heart stopped. Took her where? We don't know yet. We found Victoria's car abandoned 3 blocks away. No sign of Amara. We've issued an Amber Alert. Marcus was already running. He found Detective Kim at the police station 20 minutes later. Where is my daughter? Mr. Montgomery, please sit down. Where is she? We're doing everything we can. We have units searching the area. State police are setting up roadblocks. Every airport and bus station within 200 miles has her photo. This can't be happening. You said you arrested Victoria. You said she was in custody. She is. This happened before the arrest. Sometime between midnight and 4:30 a.m. Victoria must have known we were coming. She grabbed Amara as insurance. Insurance for what? We don't know. But Mr. Montgomery. Detective Kim's face was grim. When we arrested her, she had a note in her pocket. She asked us to give it to you. She held out a piece of paper in an evidence bag. Marcus read it through the plastic. You took everything from Jasmine. I'm taking everything from you. Come find us if you can. The handwriting was elegant, almost beautiful. The words were pure evil. She planned this, Marcus whispered. She knew you were coming. She took Amara as a hostage. It looks that way. Then make her talk. She's in custody. Make her tell you where Amara is. We've tried. She's not saying a word. She just sits there smiling. Marcus grabbed Detective Kim's arm. Let me talk to her. Absolutely not. She'll talk to me. She wants to gloat. She wants to see me suffer. Let me give her that chance. Mr. Montgomery, you're too emotionally involved. Anything you say could compromise the case. I don't care about the case. I care about my daughter. Marcus's voice cracked. She's 8 years old. She's already been through hell. And now she's out there somewhere with God knows who, terrified and alone. I have to do something. Detective Kim studied him for a long moment. 5 minutes, she finally said. I'll be watching through the glass. If you threaten her, if you touch her, I'm pulling you out. Fine. And Marcus. She used his first name for the first time. Don't let her get in your head. That's what she wants. The interrogation room was small and cold. Victoria sat at a metal table, her hands cuffed in front of her. She looked up when Marcus entered, and her face broke into a radiant smile. Darling, you came. Where is she? Straight to business. No hello, no how are you holding up in this dreadful place. Victoria, where is my daughter? Our daughter. Victoria tilted her head. I raised her for 18 months, changed her diapers, made her meals, dried her tears. Doesn't that count for something? You beat her, you burned her, you starved her brother. Now tell me where she is. Or what you'll have the police arrest me. Victoria laughed. I'm already arrested, Marcus. Thanks to you. Thanks to your precious daughter running her mouth. She told the truth. She told her version. Children lie, you know. They make things up for attention. Amara never liked me. She resented me from the day I married you. Anything she said is just, we have your videos. Victoria's smile flickered. The ones you recorded. Of yourself, abusing them, taunting them, making Amara apologize for being alive. Marcus leaned forward. We have everything, Victoria. Every sick thing you did. So don't sit there and pretend you're innocent. I never said I was innocent. Victoria's voice had changed. Gone cold, flat. I said Amara lied. About her motivations. About mine. About what really happened in that house. And what really happened? Justice happened. Victoria's eyes blazed. Your precious Jasmine destroyed my life, my career, my reputation. She reported me for something half the nurses on that floor were doing, taking a few pills here and there to get through the day. But I was the one who got fired. I was the one who got blacklisted. I couldn't get another nursing job anywhere. I had to start completely over. So you decided to destroy her family. I decided to take back what she took from me. A career, a future, a chance at happiness. Victoria smiled again. Do you know what it was like watching her from afar, watching her perfect life, her perfect husband, her perfect children, her perfect house? I lost everything, and she just went on living like nothing had happened. She didn't know. She reported what she saw. She did her job. She ruined my life. The shout echoed off the concrete walls. Victoria's composure cracked just for a moment, just long enough for Marcus to see the madness underneath. And then she died. Victoria continued, her voice quieter now, almost dreamy. Cancer. Can you believe it? After everything she'd done to me, she just got sick and died. No suffering, no punishment. Just gone. She suffered for 11 months. Chemotherapy, radiation, pain you can't imagine. Not enough, not nearly enough. Victoria leaned forward. So I decided her children would suffer instead. And her husband, the man she loved more than anything. I decided you would all pay for what she did to me. By killing my son, by torturing my daughter, by taking everything. Victoria's smile returned. The money was nice. $200,000 is a good start, but watching you finally understand what you'd lost, what you'd trusted me with, that was the real prize. Where is Amara? Somewhere you'll never find her. The police have roadblocks, Amber Alerts. They'll find her. Will they? Victoria cocked her head. How long can an 8-year-old survive alone, Marcus? How long before she tries to run, tries to find help, and meets the wrong person? Marcus's blood ran cold. She's alone. Did you think I'd take her with me to prison? Give me some credit, darling. I have a plan for everything. Where did you leave her? Somewhere dark. Somewhere cold. Somewhere she'll have plenty of time to think about her mother, about you, about how none of this would have happened if Jasmine had just minded her own business. Marcus lunged across the table. His hands closed around Victoria's throat before the guards could react. He lifted her out of the chair, slammed her against the wall. Where is she? Victoria laughed, actually laughed even with his hands cutting off her air. Too late, she gasped. Too late. You'll never. The guards pulled him off. Two of them held him back while Detective Kim rushed into the room. "Get him out of here." "She knows where Amara is. She left her somewhere alone." "I'll handle this. Get him out." They dragged Marcus into the hallway. He fought them the whole way. "My daughter. She's dying somewhere. That woman knows where she is." "Mr. Montgomery." Detective Kim grabbed his face with both hands. "Listen to me. Listen. We will find her. But I need you to calm down. I need you to think. Is there anything at all that Victoria said that could help us find Amara?" Marcus tried to breathe, tried to think past the red haze of rage and terror. "She said somewhere dark, somewhere cold, somewhere she'd have time to think." "That's not specific enough. What else?" "She mentioned her sister, Diana, in upstate New York." Detective Kim's eyes widened. "The bed and breakfast." "What?" "Diana Whitmore runs a bed and breakfast outside Albany. It's remote, woods, no neighbors for miles." She was already pulling out her phone. "If Victoria wanted to hide a child, that's exactly the kind of place. How far is it? 3 hours by car. But if I call the state police, I'm going. Mr. Montgomery, I'm going, now. You can arrest me later if you want. But I'm not sitting here while my daughter dies in some cabin in the woods." Detective Kim stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I'll have a helicopter at the hospital helipad in 20 minutes. You ride with me." Marcus Jr. was stable. The doctors had sedated him, hooked him up to monitors, surrounded him with machines that beeped and hummed. Maria sat beside his crib holding his tiny hand. "Go," she said when Marcus came to check on him. "Find Amara. I'll stay with him. If anything changes, I'll call you immediately. Now go. That little girl needs her father." Marcus kissed his son's forehead. Then he ran. The helicopter cut through the night sky. Detective Kim sat across from Marcus, coordinating with state police on her radio. "Units are converging on the property now. No one in or out until we get there." "What if she's not there? What if Victoria was lying? Then we search every inch of those woods until we find her." Detective Kim's voice was steady. "We're going to find her, Marcus. I promise." Marcus looked out the window at the darkness below. Somewhere down there, his daughter was alone. Scared. Maybe hurt. Maybe no. He wouldn't think that. He couldn't think that. "Jasmine," he whispered so quietly even Detective Kim couldn't hear. "If you're watching, if you can hear me, please keep her safe. Please let me find her." The helicopter flew on through the night, and somewhere in the darkness, a little girl waited. The helicopter touched down in a clearing 1/2 mile from Diana Whitmore's property. Marcus was out before the rotors stopped spinning. Detective Kim grabbed his arm. "Wait, we go in together. State police are already in position." "How long?" "They've been here 20 minutes. No movement inside the main house. But there's a cabin in the back of the property. Looks abandoned." "That's where she is." "We don't know that." "I know it." Marcus pulled free from her grip. "Victoria said somewhere dark and cold. A place to think. That cabin is where she put my daughter." Detective Kim studied him for a moment. Then she nodded to the state troopers waiting nearby. "Team Alpha takes the main house. Team Bravo, you're with us on the cabin. Weapons ready, but safety's on, there's a child in there." They moved through the woods in silence. Marcus's heart pounded so hard he could feel it in his temples. Every step felt too slow. Every second was another second Amara spent alone in the dark. The cabin came into view through the trees. Small, wooden, windows boarded up. The door was padlocked from the outside. "Amara!" Marcus shouted before anyone could stop him. "Amara!" Silence. Then faint, muffled a sound, a child crying. "She's in there!" Marcus sprinted for the door. "Get this open! Get it open!" A trooper stepped forward with bolt cutters. The padlock snapped. Marcus threw the door open and plunged into darkness. "Amara!" "Daddy!" The voice came from the corner. Small, broken, barely a whisper. Marcus pulled out his phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the black, and there she was, huddled in the corner, hands bound with duct tape, mouth covered, eyes huge and terrified and streaming with tears. "Oh God, oh baby." Marcus dropped to his knees beside her. His hands shook as he peeled the tape from her mouth as gently as he could manage. "Daddy." She threw herself into his arms. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." "I'm here. I've got you. You're safe now." "She said you wouldn't come. She said you wouldn't find me. She said I'd die here and it would be your fault. She was wrong." Marcus held her tighter than he'd ever held anything in his life. "She was wrong about everything. I will always find you. Always. Do you understand?" Amara sobbed against his chest. Her whole body shook with it. Detective Kim appeared in the doorway. "We need to get her to a hospital. Check her for injuries." "I'm not letting her go." "You don't have to. Carry her. The helicopter's waiting." Marcus lifted Amara in his arms. She weighed almost nothing. How had she gotten so thin? How had he not noticed during video calls, during brief visits home, during all those moments he'd trusted Victoria to care for his children? He carried her out of the cabin, out of the darkness, into the night air. "Is Marcus Jr. okay?" Amara asked, her voice still trembling. "He's okay. He's at the hospital. Maria's with him." "She didn't hurt him after she took me?" "No, baby. He's safe. You're both safe now." Amara pressed her face against his shoulder. "I was so scared, Daddy. I thought I was going to die in there. I thought I'd never see you or Marcus Jr. again." "How long were you in there?" "I don't know. It was dark the whole time. She brought me here in the car. She said this was her sister's place. She said nobody would find me." "Did you see her sister Diana?" "No, just Victoria. She put me in the cabin and locked the door. She said—" Amara's voice caught. "She said this was my punishment, for telling you the truth. She said if I'd just kept my mouth shut, none of this would have happened." Marcus's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. "Listen to me." He stopped walking, looked into his daughter's eyes. "What happened is not your fault. None of it. You told the truth. You were brave. You saved your brother's life. Victoria is the monster here, not you. Never you." Amara nodded, but he could see she didn't fully believe him. Not yet. That would take time. Therapy. Love. All the things he should have been giving her for the past 18 months instead of flying around the world making money. "Come on." He started walking again. "Let's go home." The helicopter ride back was quiet. Amara fell asleep against Marcus's chest, exhaustion finally winning over fear. Detective Kim watched them with something like compassion in her eyes. "She's a tough kid." "She shouldn't have to be." "No, she shouldn't." Detective Kim paused. "We arrested Diana Whitmore at the main house. She's claiming she didn't know Amara was in the cabin. Do you believe her?" "Not for a second. We found emails between her and Victoria going back months. Plans to hide money. Discussions about how to keep the children quiet. She knew exactly what her sister was doing." "What happens to her?" "She'll be charged as an accomplice. Kidnapping at minimum. Probably child endangerment. If we can prove she helped plan the abuse, she'll go away for a long time." Marcus looked down at Amara's sleeping face. Even in sleep, her brow was furrowed. Bad dreams already starting. "And Victoria?" "She's not talking. Hasn't said a word since you confronted her in the interrogation room." Detective Kim's expression hardened. "But she doesn't need to talk. We have the videos, the medical records, the financial trail, your daughter's testimony. She's going to prison, Marcus, for a very long time." "How long?" "The DA is talking about multiple life sentences. No parole." "Good." The helicopter banked toward the city. Below them, lights glittered like stars fallen to earth. Marcus held his daughter closer and tried to feel something like relief, but all he felt was rage. Rage at Victoria. Rage at himself. Rage at a world where a woman could spend 12 years planning to destroy children as revenge for a workplace dispute. "There's something I don't understand," he said quietly. "What's that?" She could have killed them. At any point. If she really wanted revenge, why not just... He couldn't finish the sentence. Detective Kim was quiet for a long moment. "Because death would have been too quick," she finally said. "She didn't want your children dead. She wanted them destroyed, broken. She wanted to twist them into something unrecognizable. And she wanted you to watch it happen. But I wasn't watching. I was never here." "Exactly. And that was part of her plan too. She kept you away as long as possible, let the damage accumulate, waited for the perfect moment to reveal what she'd done." Detective Kim shook her head. "You coming home early? That wasn't part of her plan. You caught her before she was ready, before she could disappear with your money and leave you with 2 traumatized children you barely recognized." Marcus closed his eyes. He'd spent his career reading people, understanding motivations, predicting behavior, and he'd been completely blind to the monster living in his own house. "How do I fix this?" His voice came out rough, broken. "How do I help them heal from something like this? One day at a time, 1 hour at a time if you have to." Detective Kim's voice softened. "You're not alone, Marcus. There are therapists who specialize in childhood trauma, support groups, resources, and those kids, they love you. That's the foundation you build on." "I don't deserve their love." "Maybe not, but you have it anyway. Don't waste it." The helicopter began its descent toward the hospital helipad. Marcus looked out the window at the approaching lights. One day at a time. He could do that. He had to. Marcus Jr. was awake when they arrived. Maria sat beside his crib singing softly in Spanish. The baby's eyes were open, tracking her face, his tiny hand wrapped around her finger. "He woke up an hour ago," Maria said, as Marcus entered with Amara in his arms. "The doctors say he's responding well to the fluids. His color is better." Marcus looked at his son. She was right. The grayish tint was fading. His cheeks had a hint of pink. His eyes were brighter, more alert. "Marcus Jr." Amara squirmed in Marcus's arms, reaching toward her brother. "Can I hold him? Please, Daddy, can I hold him?" Carefully. He's still hooked up to the IV. Marcus set Amara down in the chair beside the crib. Maria lifted Marcus Jr. gently and placed him in Amara's arms. The little girl held her brother like he was made of glass, like he might break if she breathed too hard. "I'm sorry," she whispered to him. "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you better. I tried, Marcus Jr. I really tried." The baby made a sound. Not quite a word, more like a coo. His hand reached up and touched Amara's face. She burst into tears. "He doesn't hate me. I thought he'd hate me." "Why would he hate you?" Marcus knelt beside the chair. "Because I couldn't stop her. Because I let her hurt him." "You were a child, Amara. You are a child. None of this was your responsibility." "But I'm his big sister. I was supposed to keep him safe." "No." Marcus took her face in his hands, made her look at him. "I was supposed to keep you both safe. I'm the father. I'm the adult. The failure here is mine, not yours, never yours." Amara stared at him through her tears. "Do you mean that?" "With all my heart." She nodded slowly. Then she looked back down at Marcus Jr., who had fallen asleep in her arms. "He's so small," she said softly. "He should be bigger by now, shouldn't he?" "He will be. The doctors are going to make sure he gets all the nutrition he needs. He's going to grow up big and strong." "Promise?" "Promise." Maria touched Marcus's shoulder. "Mr. Montgomery, there's a police officer outside. He says the district attorney wants to speak with you." Marcus looked at his children. Amara holding Marcus Jr., both of them finally safe. "Tell him to wait. I'm not leaving them." He said it's important. Something about new evidence. Marcus hesitated. Go, Amara said quietly. We'll be okay. Maria's here. She sounded older than 8 years old. Sounded like someone who'd been forced to grow up too fast. Marcus kissed her forehead. Then he kissed Marcus Jr.'s tiny head. I'll be right back. I promise. The district attorney was a tall, silver-haired man named Robert Chen. He met Marcus in the hospital conference room with a grim expression. Mr. Montgomery, thank you for meeting with me. What's this about Victoria Whitmore? Chen sat down across from Marcus. She's agreed to talk. What? She's asked for a meeting with you. Says she has information about your late wife. Information she'll only share with you present. Marcus's blood ran cold. What kind of information? She wouldn't say, but she implied. Chen hesitated. She implied that your wife's death may not have been natural. The room tilted. Marcus grabbed the edge of the table. Jasmine died of cancer. Stage 4. Diagnosed 11 months before she died. I know. I've seen the medical records. Chen's face was carefully neutral. But Victoria is suggesting there may have been interference, delays in diagnosis, missed symptoms, possibly deliberate. That's insane. Probably. She's almost certainly lying to manipulate you. But what? But she worked at the same hospital. She had access. And if there's even a chance she did something to interfere with your wife's treatment. Chen spread his hands. We need to know. Marcus stared at him. Victoria's voice echoed in his memory. I decided her children would suffer, and her husband. I decided you would all pay for what she did to me. What if the revenge had started earlier than he thought? What if Victoria hadn't just waited for Jasmine to die? What if she'd helped it happen? Where is she? County jail. We can have you there in 20 minutes. Let's go. The jail smelled like disinfectant and despair. Victoria sat in the same interrogation room wearing orange now instead of her designer clothes. No makeup, hair tangled. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. But when Marcus entered, her eyes lit up with that same cold amusement. You came. I knew you would. Talk. No pleasantries, no outrage. You're learning Marcus. You said you have information about Jasmine. What is it? Sit down first. I want to enjoy this. Marcus didn't move. Victoria shrugged. Fine. Stand there like a statue. See if I care. She leaned back in her chair. Your wife came to me 3 years ago. Did you know that? That's impossible. You didn't meet until the grief support group. Yes. That's when I introduced myself as Victoria, the kind volunteer who just wanted to help a poor widower. She smiled. But I saw Jasmine long before that, at the hospital. She came to see a specialist. Oncology. Marcus's heart stopped. She had symptoms, fatigue, weight loss, night sweats. Her primary care doctor referred her for tests. Victoria's smile widened. But somehow those test results got lost, misfiled. By the time they were found and she was diagnosed, the cancer had already spread. Stage 4 instead of stage 1. Terminal instead of treatable. You're lying. Am I? Victoria tilted her head. Ask yourself this, Marcus. How does a healthy, active woman go from first symptoms to stage 4 in less than 6 months? How does that happen at one of the best hospitals in the country? Cancers progress differently. The doctors explained. The doctors explained what the medical records told them. But I was the one who handled those records, Marcus. I was the one who made sure certain test results sat in a drawer for 5 months instead of reaching her doctor. Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. I killed your wife. Slowly. Painfully. And I watched you all suffer through it. Marcus lunged. He didn't remember crossing the room. Didn't remember his hands closing around her throat. Didn't remember the guards rushing in, pulling him off, slamming him against the wall. All he felt was rage. Pure, blinding, murderous rage. You killed her. You killed my wife. And her children. Victoria gasped, rubbing her throat where his fingers had left marks. Almost killed them too. I would have eventually. If you hadn't come home early. Just think Marcus a few more weeks and you'd have had nothing left. No wife, no children. Nothing but money and grief and the knowledge that you couldn't protect any of them. Get him out of here, Detective Kim ordered. The guards dragged Marcus from the room. He fought them every step. She admitted it. She killed Jasmine. Charge her with murder. We will, Detective Kim said, following him into the hallway. We absolutely will. But I need you to calm down, Marcus. I need you to let us handle this. She killed my wife. She tortured my children. His voice broke. All the rage drained out of him at once, leaving nothing but grief. 18 months of grief that he'd been running from burying under work and travel and the desperate hope that remarriage would fix everything. He slid down the wall until he was sitting on the cold tile floor. And for the first time since Jasmine's funeral, Marcus Montgomery III broke down and cried. Detective Kim sat beside him. She didn't say anything. Didn't try to comfort him or hurry him along. Just sat there in the harsh fluorescent light while he sobbed like a child. When the tears finally stopped, she spoke. We're going to investigate every word she said, pull the hospital records, interview the staff who worked there during Jasmine's diagnosis. If Victoria tampered with your wife's test results, we'll find proof. And if you don't, then she goes away for the crimes we can prove. Child abuse, attempted murder, kidnapping, fraud. Even without the murder charge, she's looking at life in prison. It's not enough. I know. Detective Kim's voice was gentle. But it's something. And your children are alive, Marcus. They're damaged, but they're alive. That's what matters now. Marcus wiped his face with the back of his hand. How do I tell them? How do I tell Amara that the woman who hurt her also killed her mother? You don't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She's 8 years old. She doesn't need to carry that weight. But she'll find out eventually, when the trial happens. That's months away, maybe years. By then she'll be stronger. You'll all be stronger. Detective Kim stood up. Go back to your children, Marcus. Hold them. Let them know you're there. That's the best thing you can do right now. Marcus nodded slowly. He pushed himself to his feet. His legs felt weak. His whole body felt weak, like he'd been hollowed out and filled with sand. But Detective Kim was right. His children needed him. That had to be enough. When Marcus got back to the hospital room, Amara was asleep in the chair beside Marcus Jr.'s crib. Maria had covered her with a blanket. The little girl's face was peaceful now. No more furrowed brow. No more tears. Marcus stood in the doorway and watched his children sleep. 2 small lives. So fragile. So precious. He'd almost lost them. To his own blindness, his own grief, his own desperate need to believe that someone else could fix what was broken in his family. Mr. Montgomery? Maria's voice was soft. Are you all right? No. He didn't lie to her. But I will be. We all will be, eventually. He walked to the chair where Amara slept, knelt down beside her, brushed a curl of dark hair from her face. I'm going to be better, he whispered. I'm going to be the father you deserve. I promise. Amara stirred slightly, murmured something in her sleep. It sounded like Daddy. Marcus pressed his lips together to keep from crying again. Then he pulled up another chair, settled in beside his children, and prepared to wait. The night was long, but for the first time in months, he wasn't running from it. 6 months passed before the trial began. 6 months of therapy sessions and nightmare-filled nights. 6 months of watching Marcus Jr. slowly gain weight, slowly learn to smile, slowly become the healthy baby he should have been from the start. 6 months of holding Amara when she woke up screaming, of answering the same questions over and over, of trying to rebuild trust that had been shattered into 1,000 pieces. Marcus sold the house 3 weeks after Victoria's arrest. He couldn't bring himself to walk through those rooms again. Couldn't look at the kitchen where he'd found his daughter crumpled against the cabinets. Couldn't pass the nursery where his son had been slowly starving to death. They moved to a smaller place in the countryside. Fewer rooms, more windows, a garden where Amara could play without shadows lurking in every corner. Marcus cut his travel schedule by 70%, promoted trusted people to handle the international offices, learned to say no to deals that would take him away from his children for more than a few days at a time. Money meant nothing if his children grew up without him. He'd learned that lesson in the cruelest way possible. The investigation into Jasmine's death took 4 months. Detective Kim called him with the results on a Tuesday afternoon. Marcus was in the backyard watching Amara push Marcus Jr. on a baby swing, listening to her make silly faces that made him giggle. "We found it," Detective Kim said. "Found what?" "Proof. Victoria's fingerprints were on the original test results, the ones that got misfiled. And we found an email she sent to her sister 3 years ago, bragging about how she'd delayed Jasmine's diagnosis by 5 months. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. So she really did it. She really killed Jasmine. She did. The DA is adding first-degree murder to the charges. Premeditated. She planned this for years, Marcus. Years. Marcus looked at his children. Amara was laughing now, swinging Marcus Jr. higher while he squealed with delight. They looked happy. Normal. Like children who hadn't spent 18 months in hell. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Don't thank me yet. The trial is going to be brutal. Victoria's defense team is already preparing. They're going to claim she's mentally ill, that she wasn't responsible for her actions. She planned this for 12 years. That's not mental illness. That's evil." "I agree, but juries can be unpredictable. We need to be prepared for anything." Marcus hung up and walked across the lawn to his children. "Daddy?" Amara ran to him, grabbing his hand. Marcus Jr. smiled at me. A real smile. "Did you see?" "I saw baby girl." Marcus lifted her into his arms. "I saw everything." The trial began on a gray Monday in October. The courthouse was surrounded by news vans and reporters. Victoria Whitmore's case had become national news. The wealthy stepmother who'd tortured her husband's children for revenge. The nurse who'd murdered a patient by delaying her cancer diagnosis. The con artist who'd stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars while her victims slowly starved. Marcus walked past the cameras without looking at them. He'd hired the best victim advocacy team money could buy. They'd prepared Amara for weeks working with her therapist to make sure she was ready to testify without being re-traumatized. They'd coached Marcus on what to expect, what to say, how to handle the inevitable attacks from Victoria's defense. None of it made him feel ready. The courtroom was packed. Marcus sat in the front row with Maria beside him. Amara was in a separate room with a child advocate waiting to testify via video link so she wouldn't have to face Victoria directly. Marcus Jr. was at home with Dr. Williams's wife, too young to understand any of this. Too young to remember the woman who'd tried to kill him. For that, Marcus was grateful. Victoria entered the courtroom in prison orange. Her hair was shorter now, her face thinner. But her eyes were the same. Cold, calculating, amused. She looked directly at Marcus as she sat down at the defense table and smiled. The prosecution opened with the medical evidence. Dr. Okonkwo took the stand first, her voice steady as she described Marcus Jr.'s condition when he was admitted to the hospital. The baby was severely malnourished, dehydrated. His weight was 6 pounds below normal for his age. He had alcohol and diphenhydramine in his system, a combination that was essentially sedating him around the clock. In your medical opinion, Dr. Okonkwo, what would have happened if this abuse had continued? He would have died. No hesitation. Another week, maybe 2, and his organs would have begun shutting down. This baby was being slowly murdered. The defense attorney, a smooth-voiced man named Harrison Wells, rose for cross-examination. Dr. Okonkwo, isn't it possible that Mrs. Whitmore simply didn't know the proper way to care for an infant? That this was negligence rather than intentional abuse? No. No. You seem very certain. I am certain. Dr. Okonkwo's eyes flashed. Negligent parents don't add vodka to baby bottles. Negligent parents don't systematically deprive infants of nutrition while spending household money on designer clothes. This wasn't ignorance. This was cruelty. Your Honor, I move to strike the witness's characterization. Denied. The witness is an expert in pediatric medicine and is entitled to render opinions within her field. Harrison Wells sat down, his jaw tight. Small victory, Marcus thought. But the trial was just beginning. Maria testified next. She sat in the witness box with her hands clasped in her lap, tears already streaming down her face as the prosecutor began her questions. Mrs. Reyes, you worked as a housekeeper in the Montgomery home for 3 years. Is that correct? Yes, since before Mrs. Jasmine passed. And you were there when Victoria Whitmore moved in? Yes. Can you describe what you observed during her time in the household? Maria took a deep breath. At first she seemed nice, kind, always smiling. But then Mr. Montgomery left for his first long trip after the wedding. And everything changed. Changed how? She became a different person. Cold, mean. She started hitting Amara 3 days after Mr. Montgomery left. I saw her slap the child across the face for spilling juice. Did you report this abuse? Maria's face crumpled. No. God forgive me, no. She threatened me. She said she knew I didn't have proper papers. She said she'd have me deported and I'd never see my own children again. Maria sobbed. I was a coward. I should have called the police. I should have told Mr. Montgomery, but I was so afraid. What else did you observe? She barely fed the baby. I found empty formula bottles in the trash. She was giving him water instead of milk to save money, and she spent that money on herself. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, restaurant meals when Mr. Montgomery was traveling. Did you see her abuse Amara on other occasions? Many times. I saw her throw Amara against the wall. I saw her lock her in a closet overnight. I saw... Maria's voice broke. I saw the burns on Amara's hands after she tried to sneak food for the baby. That woman pressed a child's hands against a hot stove because she tried to feed her starving brother. The courtroom was silent. Harrison Wells approached for cross-examination, but his voice was gentler now. He knew a sympathetic witness when he saw one. Mrs. Reyes, you said Mrs. Whitmore threatened to have you deported. Did she ever actually attempt to contact immigration authorities? No. So the threat was never carried out? No, but I believed her. She was very convincing. I'm sure she was. Wells paused. But isn't it true that your immigration status has since been resolved, that Mr. Montgomery sponsored your green card application? Yes. After all this happened, he helped me. So you feel grateful to Mr. Montgomery? Of course. Grateful enough to say what he wants you to say in this courtroom. Maria's eyes flashed with sudden anger. I am telling the truth. I saw what that woman did to those children. I live with the guilt of not stopping her every day of my life. You can twist my words all you want, but you cannot change what I saw. Wells retreated. Another small victory. Amara's testimony came on the 3rd day. Marcus sat rigid in his seat as the video link connected to the room where his daughter waited. She appeared on the screen small and pale, her hands folded neatly in her lap. A child advocate sat beside her just out of frame. The prosecutor's voice was gentle. Amara, can you tell us about your stepmother, Victoria? Amara's eyes flickered to the side, looking at the advocate probably, getting reassurance. She was mean to me and Marcus Jr. Mean how? She hit me. A lot. She said I was bad. She said my mommy died because she didn't want to be my mommy anymore. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Did she ever hurt your baby brother? She didn't feed him right. She gave him water instead of milk, and she put stuff in his bottle to make him sleep. Alcohol stuff. I could smell it. How do you know it was alcohol? Because she told me. She said it was the only way to make him stop crying. She said if I told anyone, she'd make him disappear. What did you think she meant by that? That she'd kill him. Amara's voice was barely a whisper. I thought she'd kill him if I said anything. Did you try to help your brother? I snuck him food sometimes. Real formula. I would get up at night when she was sleeping and make bottles for him. Amara looked down at her hands. But she caught me. What happened when she caught you? Silence. Amara, you're safe now. You can tell us. She burned me. The words came out choked. She turned on the stove and made me put my hands on it. She said that's what happened to children who disobeyed. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Marcus couldn't breathe. Did you tell anyone about the abuse? No, I was too scared. She said nobody would believe me. She said I was just a kid and she was the adult and everybody would think I was lying. But you're telling the truth now. Yes. Amara looked directly into the camera. I'm telling the truth. Everything I said is true. Harrison Wells rose for cross-examination. His voice was careful, measured. He knew that attacking a child witness could turn the jury against him. Amara, you said your stepmother hit you. Did anyone else ever see her hit you? Maria saw, the housekeeper. Anyone else? No. She only did it when Daddy wasn't home. So your father never witnessed any abuse? No, he was always traveling. And you never told him, never called him, never sent a message. I was scared. She was always listening. But surely there were opportunities, times when she wasn't paying attention. I tried once. Amara's voice shook. I tried to tell him on a video call. I started crying and he asked what was wrong. But she was standing right behind the camera, looking at me. I couldn't say anything. So you're saying that over 18 months you never found a single opportunity to tell your father the truth? I tried. I really tried. But she always knew. She always found out. And then she'd hurt Marcus Jr. to punish me. Wells paused. Amara, do you love your father? Yes. Do you want him to be happy? Yes. And you know that putting Victoria in prison would make him happy, don't you? The prosecutor stood up. Objection. He's badgering the witness. Sustained. Mr. Wells, this is an 8-year-old child. Treat her accordingly. Wells nodded, his expression neutral. I have no further questions. The screen went dark. Marcus realized he'd been holding his breath for the entire testimony. The prosecution's case stretched over 2 weeks. Witness after witness, expert after expert, the hospital staff who'd treated Marcus Jr., the investigators who'd found Victoria's surveillance files, the forensic accountants who'd traced the stolen money, the medical examiner who'd reviewed Jasmine's original test results and confirmed they'd been deliberately misfiled. Through it all, Victoria sat at the defense table and smiled. She smiled when the photographs of Marcus Jr.'s bruises were shown to the jury. She smiled when Maria described watching her throw Amara against a wall. She smiled when the prosecutor played the videos she'd recorded of herself tormenting the children. The jury members looked at her with undisguised horror. But still she smiled. On the 15th day of trial, Victoria took the stand. Marcus leaned forward in his seat. He'd been waiting for this, dreading it, wanting to hear her explain herself, even as he knew no explanation could ever make sense of what she'd done. Harrison Wells led her through preliminary questions. Name, age, background. Then he got to the heart of it. Victoria, the prosecution has presented evidence of systematic abuse against your stepchildren. How do you respond to these accusations? Victoria folded her hands in her lap. I won't deny that I made mistakes, that I wasn't always the mother those children needed. Raising someone else's children is incredibly difficult, especially when you're doing it alone for months at a time. Are you saying Mr. Montgomery bears some responsibility for what happened? I'm saying I was overwhelmed. I was isolated. I had no support, no help, no relief. And I made decisions I'm not proud of. Such as, I was too harsh with Amara sometimes, too impatient. I should have been gentler. What about the vodka in the baby's bottle? A terrible mistake. I was desperate for sleep. I'd read online that a small amount of alcohol could help colicky babies. I never meant to hurt him. And the burns on Amara's hands. Victoria's face went carefully blank. That was an accident. She touched the stove while I wasn't looking. I feel terrible about it. An accident, Wells repeated. But Amara testified that you deliberately pressed her hands against the burner. Children misremember things. They exaggerate. Amara has always had a vivid imagination. Marcus's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. She was good, so calm, so reasonable. If he didn't know the truth, he might almost believe her. The prosecutor rose for cross-examination. Amanda Chen was a small woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She'd spent 20 years putting away the worst criminals in the state. Victoria didn't stand a chance. Mrs. Whitmore, you testified that the burns on Amara's hands were an accident. Is that correct? Yes. Then how do you explain this? Chen pressed a button on her laptop. A video appeared on the courtroom screens. Victoria's face, close up, lit by harsh kitchen light. Say it again, Victoria's voice commanded from the speakers. Say what happens to children who disobey. They get punished. A child's voice, sobbing. They get punished. And what's your punishment? I have to put my hands on the stove. That's right. Now hold still. A scream. A terrible, agonized scream. And through it all, Victoria's face in the video. Watching. Smiling. The courtroom erupted. Order! The judge slammed his gavel. Order! Victoria's composure cracked for the first time. That video was taken out of context. I was disciplining her. She needed to learn. She needed to learn what? Chen's voice cut like a blade. That her stepmother would torture her for trying to feed her starving brother. It wasn't torture. It was discipline. Discipline. Chen stepped closer to the witness stand. Let me remind you what discipline looks like, Mrs. Whitmore. A timeout. A grounding. Loss of privileges. What you did was press an 8-year-old child's hands against a hot stove until she screamed. That's not discipline. That's assault. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking clearly. You weren't thinking clearly for 18 months. You weren't thinking clearly when you recorded yourself abusing these children and saved the videos on your computer. You weren't thinking clearly when you told Amara to apologize for being alive. I don't remember saying that. Chen played another video. Victoria's voice clear and cold. Say it. Say you're sorry you're alive. Say you should have died with your mother. A child's voice broken and sobbing. I'm sorry I'm alive. I should have died with Mommy. Still don't remember. Victoria's face had gone white. Let's talk about Jasmine Montgomery, Chen continued. You worked with her at Memorial Hospital, didn't you? Briefly. Briefly, you worked there for 2 years, until she reported you for stealing medication and got you fired. That was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding that ended your nursing career. That blacklisted you from every hospital in the state. That destroyed your reputation. I moved on. Did you? Chen pulled out a document. This is an email you sent to your sister 3 years ago. Would you like me to read it? Objection, Wells said. The email's authenticity hasn't been established. Your Honor, we have forensic analysis confirming this email was sent from Victoria Whitmore's personal account. Objection overruled. Proceed. Chen read aloud. I finally did it. The tests are misfiled. By the time they figure out what's wrong with her, it'll be too late. She'll die just like my career died. Slowly, painfully. And her perfect family will suffer every step of the way. The courtroom was dead silent. You wrote this email 2 weeks after Jasmine Montgomery's cancer screening results were lost. Results that, if delivered on time, would have shown stage 1 breast cancer. Treatable. Survivable. Instead, she wasn't diagnosed until the cancer had spread to stage 4. Victoria said nothing. You killed her, didn't you? You deliberately delayed her diagnosis so she would die. I want a lawyer. You have a lawyer. He's sitting right there. Answer the question, Mrs. Whitmore. Did you deliberately delay Jasmine Montgomery's cancer diagnosis? I refuse to answer. That's your right. But the jury is watching, Mrs. Whitmore. They've heard the evidence. They've seen the videos. They know exactly what kind of person you are. Chen turned to face the jury. This woman spent 12 years planning her revenge. She killed Jasmine Montgomery by sabotaging her medical care. She married Marcus Montgomery to gain access to his children and his money. She systematically tortured an 8-year-old girl and starved a 6-month-old baby. She recorded her own crimes because she enjoyed watching her victim suffer. She turned back to Victoria. You're not overwhelmed, Mrs. Whitmore. You're not mentally ill. You're not misunderstood. You're a monster, and this jury is going to make sure you never hurt anyone again. Victoria's smile was gone. In its place was something else, something cold, something hateful, something that looked finally like the truth. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Marcus sat in the courthouse hallway with Maria beside him. His hands shook. His stomach churned. Every minute felt like an hour. Finally, the bailiff appeared. They've reached a verdict. Marcus stood up. His legs felt weak. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. The courtroom filled quickly. Reporters, spectators, legal observers, everyone wanting to witness the end. Victoria was led in. She looked smaller now, diminished. The confidence was gone. The jury filed into their box. 12 faces. Unreadable. The foreman stood. On the charge of child abuse in the first degree, how does the jury find guilty? On the charge of attempted murder, how does the jury find guilty? On the charge of kidnapping, how does the jury find guilty? On the charge of first-degree murder in the death of Jasmine Montgomery, how does the jury find guilty? Guilty. 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 On all 23 counts. Victoria screamed. She lunged at the jury box, her face twisted with rage. 3 bailiffs grabbed her, dragged her back. You'll regret this. All of you. I'll make you pay. The judge slammed his gavel. Order. Remove the defendant. They dragged Victoria from the courtroom. Her screams echoed down the hallway, growing fainter and fainter until they disappeared entirely. Marcus sat frozen in his seat. It was over. After everything, the abuse, the kidnapping, the revelation about Jasmine, it was finally over. Maria touched his arm. Mr. Montgomery, are you all right? Marcus looked at her, and for the first time in 18 months he smiled. Yeah, he said quietly. I think I am. The sentencing hearing came 3 weeks later. Judge Patricia Hayes presided. She was a gray-haired woman with cold eyes and a reputation for harsh sentences. Victoria stood before her in prison orange. Her lawyer stood beside her, his face grim. Victoria Whitmore. The judge said, You have been convicted of 23 felony counts, including the murder of Jasmine Montgomery and the systematic abuse of 2 minor children. Before I impose sentence, do you have anything to say? Victoria lifted her chin. I regret nothing. The courtroom gasped. Jasmine Montgomery destroyed my life, my career, my future. Everything I did was justice. Everything I did was deserved. You call torturing children justice. I call it balance. She took everything from me. I took everything from her. Judge Hayes stared at her for a long moment. In my 30 years on the bench, I have never encountered a defendant so devoid of remorse, so utterly lacking in human empathy. You are not justice, Mrs. Whitmore. You are cruelty incarnate. She straightened the papers before her. On the charge of first-degree murder, I sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On the charge of attempted murder, I sentence you to 25 years. On the charge of kidnapping, I sentence you to 20 years. On the charges of child abuse, I sentence you to 15 years on each count to run consecutively." She looked up at Victoria. "In total, you will serve multiple life sentences. You will die in prison, Mrs. Whitmore, and may God have mercy on your soul because this court has none." The gavel came down. Victoria was led away in silence. No screaming this time. No threats. Just a woman facing the consequences of her own cruelty. Finally, Marcus walked out of the courthouse into the autumn sunlight. Amara was waiting for him on the steps. Maria held Marcus Jr. in her arms. "Is it over, Daddy?" Amara asked. "It's over, baby girl." Marcus knelt down and pulled her into his arms. "It's finally over. She's never coming back. Never. She's going to prison forever." Amara nodded slowly. Then she wrapped her arms around his neck and held on tight. "Can we go home now?" "Yeah, sweetheart." Marcus lifted her up, held her close, felt his son's small hand reach out and grab his finger. "Let's go home." 5 years passed. They didn't pass easily. They didn't pass without pain. There were nights when Amara woke up screaming, convinced Victoria was standing over her bed. There were days when Marcus Jr. refused to eat some buried memory, triggering fear he couldn't name. There were moments when Marcus stood in the shower and cried until the water ran cold, grieving for Jasmine all over again, now that he knew the truth about her death. But the days passed, and slowly, carefully, like skin growing over deep wounds, the healing began. Marcus sold the company. Not all of it, just the parts that required constant travel. The Singapore office, the London merger, the Tokyo expansion. He kept enough to maintain their lifestyle, invested the rest, and walked away from the empire he'd spent 20 years building. "You're making a mistake," his business partner told him. "You're at the peak of your career. You can't just walk away." "Watch me." He bought a house in the countryside, smaller than before, quieter, a place with wide windows and a garden, and no shadows lurking in corners. A place where his children could run and play, and forget if only for a moment the nightmare they'd survived. Maria came with them. She'd become family in everything but name. Her own children visited on weekends, filling the house with laughter and Spanish and the smell of her cooking. She'd gotten her green card with Marcus's help, no longer lived in fear of deportation, could finally breathe freely. "You gave me my life back," she told Marcus one evening watching the children play in the garden. "Let me help give yours back too." "You already have." Dr. Williams remained their physician and friend. He checked on the children regularly, monitoring Marcus Jr.'s development, celebrating every milestone. The day Marcus Jr. spoke his first full sentence, the old doctor had tears in his eyes. "That baby was dying," he said. "Now look at him. Look at both of them. You did this, Marcus. You saved them." "We all did. All of us together." Therapy helped. Amara went twice a week for the first 2 years, then once a week, then every other week. She learned to name her feelings, learned to recognize when fear was rational and when it was just an echo of the past. Learned that what happened wasn't her fault, would never be her fault, no matter what Victoria had told her. The nightmares faded. Slowly. Gradually. 1 week without waking up screaming became 2 weeks, then a month, then 3 months. She still had bad dreams sometimes, but she'd learned to talk about them to let the darkness out instead of holding it inside. "I dreamed about her last night," she told Marcus one morning at breakfast. Victoria. She was trying to take Marcus Jr. again. "What did you do in the dream?" "I stood in front of him. I told her she couldn't have him, that I wouldn't let her. And then she disappeared, just like that. Poof." Amara shrugged. "It was weird." "It wasn't weird. It was brave. It was just a dream, Daddy." "Dreams matter too. And in yours you protected your brother. That's who you are, Amara. A protector. Someone who stands up for people who can't stand up for themselves." Amara thought about that for a moment. "Like Mommy." Marcus's throat tightened. "Yeah, baby girl. just like Mommy. Marcus Jr. grew. The developmental delays from his malnutrition and poisoning were mostly overcome through early intervention and therapy. He was small for his age, probably always would be, but he was healthy, energetic, joyful in the way children should be joyful. He didn't remember Victoria, didn't remember the hunger and pain, didn't remember lying in his crib crying until he had no voice left. His earliest memories were of Amara pushing him on the swing, of Maria singing him to sleep, of Marcus reading him stories at bedtime. For that, Marcus was endlessly grateful. Marcus Jr. adored his sister with the pure, uncomplicated love of a little brother who didn't know what she'd sacrificed for him. He followed her everywhere, wanted to do everything she did, cried when she went to school without him. "Why does Amara have to go away?" he asked one morning, his lower lip trembling. "She's going to school, to learn things." "I want to learn things with her." "You will, buddy. In a couple of years, you'll go to school too." "Promise?" "Promise." Marcus Jr. thought about that, his small face serious. "Will Amara still be my sister when I go to school?" "Always. She'll always be your sister, forever and ever." "Good." Marcus Jr. nodded satisfied. "I like having a sister." "She likes having you too, buddy." Amara overheard that conversation from the hallway. Marcus saw her standing there, tears in her eyes, a smile on her face. She didn't say anything, just gave him a thumbs up and went to get ready for school. Small moments. Ordinary moments. The kind of moments Marcus had missed for 18 months while he was building empires and running from grief. He didn't miss them anymore. The foundation was Marcus's idea. He'd been sitting in Dr. Williams's office waiting for Amara's therapy session to end when he saw a pamphlet on the table. Information about recognizing signs of child abuse, warning signs, risk factors, resources for families. "How many kids go through what Amara and Marcus Jr. went through?" he asked Dr. Williams. "Too many. Most abuse goes unreported. The children are too scared to speak up, and the adults around them don't know what to look for." "What if they did? What if there was better training, better resources, better support for people who suspect something's wrong but don't know what to do? That would save lives, but it takes money, organization, someone willing to champion the cause." Marcus looked at the pamphlet again. "What if I was that someone?" The Jasmine Montgomery Foundation launched 1 year after Victoria's conviction, dedicated to identifying and preventing child abuse, funding training for teachers, doctors, social workers, and anyone else who worked with children, providing resources for families, supporting survivors. Marcus threw himself into the work with the same intensity he'd once given to business. He hired experts, built partnerships, lobbied legislators for stronger laws and harsher sentences. "You can't fix what happened to your kids," Detective Kim told him at a fundraising event. "You know that, right?" "I know, but maybe I can fix what's about to happen to someone else's kids." "That's a good reason." "It's the only reason that matters." The foundation helped hundreds of children in its first 3 years, trained thousands of professionals, changed laws in 7 states, became a national model for abuse prevention. Marcus considered it the most important work of his life. Amara started painting. It began as therapy, a way to process emotions she couldn't put into words. But somewhere along the way, it became something more, a passion, a talent, a gift. Her paintings were bright and full of light, gardens and sunshine and families holding hands, colors so vivid they seemed to pulse with life. "Why do you always paint happy things?" Marcus Jr. asked her one afternoon, watching her work at her easel in the garden. Amara thought about it. "Because I spent so long with sadness and fear. I want to make beautiful things instead." "Like what?" "Like this." She turned the canvas to show him. A painting of their family, Marcus holding Marcus Jr., Amara beside them, Maria in the background, all of them smiling, all of them together. "That's us." Yeah, that's us. Where's Mommy? Amara pointed to the sky in the painting. A single cloud shaped vaguely like a heart. She's watching. She's always watching. Marcus Jr. studied the painting with serious eyes. I think she likes it. I think so too. Her art teacher at school told Marcus that Amara had extraordinary talent, that she should consider art school when she was older, that her work had a quality of emotional depth rarely seen in someone so young. She's been through a lot, Marcus said. I know. That's what makes her art so powerful. She's transforming pain into beauty. That's the highest form of artistic expression. Marcus bought every painting Amara made, hung them throughout the house, donated some to the foundation's offices. Let the brightness of her vision chase away the last lingering shadows. The nightmares never stopped entirely for Marcus. He still woke sometimes in cold sweats dreaming of coming home too late, of finding Marcus Jr. dead in his crib, of Amara gone forever, of Jasmine asking him why he hadn't protected their children. On those nights he'd walk through the house, check on both children sleeping safely in their beds, stand in their doorways and watch them breathe until his heart rate settled. You're still blaming yourself. Doctor, William said during one of their conversations, still carrying the guilt. Shouldn't I? I was gone. I trusted a stranger with my children. I didn't see what was happening. You were manipulated by a master manipulator. Victoria fooled everyone. The grief counselors who recommended her, the references she fabricated, the entire system designed to protect vulnerable people. But I was their father. I should have known. Should you? You video called every day. You came home as often as you could. You asked questions, checked in, did everything a traveling parent is supposed to do. Victoria had 18 months to perfect her lies. She controlled what you saw, what you heard, what Amara was allowed to say. It wasn't enough. No, it wasn't. But you know what? You came home early that night. Some instinct, some piece of you that sensed something was wrong made you change your flight, made you walk through that door at exactly the right moment. If you hadn't, I know what would have happened. Then maybe instead of blaming yourself for what you didn't prevent, you could give yourself credit for what you did. Marcus thought about that for a long time. He wasn't sure he'd ever fully forgive himself. Some wounds scarred over but never healed completely. Some guilt settled into your bones and became part of who you were. But he could live with it. He could carry it and still move forward. He could be there for his children now, even if he hadn't been there before. That had to be enough. On the 5th anniversary of Victoria's conviction, Marcus took the children to visit Jasmine's grave. They did this every year, bringing flowers, telling Jasmine about their lives, keeping her memory alive. Amara was 13 now, tall and beautiful, her mother's eyes looking out from her father's face. She placed roses on the headstone, then knelt in the grass beside it. "Hi, Mommy," she said softly. "We're okay. We're really okay now. Marcus Jr. is 6. He's in kindergarten, and he's so smart. He can read already, and he's learning to ride a bike. I'm in 8th grade. I got all A's this semester, and my art teacher says I might get into a special summer program. Daddy's home almost every night for dinner. He doesn't travel anymore. He says we're more important than any business deal." She paused, wiping her eyes. "I miss you, Mommy. I miss you every day. But I think you'd be proud of us. I think you'd be happy about how we turned out." Marcus Jr. added his own flowers to the grave. He was more serious about these visits now, old enough to understand what they meant. "I wish I remembered you," he said to the headstone. "Amara tells me stories about you. She says you were the best mommy in the whole world. She says I have your smile." He paused. "I'm going to try to be good. I'm going to take care of Amara and Daddy like you would have." Marcus knelt between his children, putting an arm around each of them. "Your mother is proud of you," he said. "I know she is. You're both so brave, so strong. You survived something terrible and came through it with your heart still intact, Still capable of love and trust and joy. That's extraordinary. Do you think she can hear us? Amara asked. I think she can. I think she's been watching over us all along. I think she was there the night I came home early, the night I found you. I think she guided me. Like a guardian angel. Exactly like that. They stood in silence for a while, the three of them together at Jasmine's grave. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. Birds sang in the trees nearby. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell chimed. Daddy, Marcus Jr. tugged on his hand. Yeah, buddy. Can we get ice cream on the way home? Marcus laughed. The sound surprised him, full and genuine and free. Yeah, buddy. We can definitely get ice cream. They walked back to the car together. Amara held Marcus Jr.'s hand, helping him over the uneven ground. Marcus followed behind, watching his children, feeling something warm and bright expanding in his chest. Hope. He'd almost forgotten what it felt like. In the car, Marcus Jr. fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the emotional day. Amara stared out the window at the passing landscape, her face thoughtful. Dad? She'd started calling him Dad instead of Daddy this year, growing up in small increments. Yeah. Do you think Victoria ever thinks about us in prison? Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I don't know, sweetheart. I try not to think about her at all. I used to think about her all the time, every day. I'd wake up and the first thing in my head would be her face, her voice, the things she said to me. Amara paused. But lately, I don't think about her much. Sometimes I forget she even existed. Is that okay? That's more than okay. That's healing. I don't want to forget what happened. I don't want to pretend it didn't happen. You don't have to forget. You just have to not let it control you anymore. You have to take the power back. Is that what you do? Marcus considered the question. I try. Some days are easier than others. But I focus on what I have, not what I lost. I focus on you and Marcus Jr., on building a good life, on making sure nothing like that ever happens to our family again. Amara nodded slowly. I think that's what Mommy would want. I think so too. They drove in comfortable silence for a few miles. Then Amara spoke again, softer this time. I'm happy now, Dad. I'm really happy. I didn't think I could be. For a long time I thought the sad would never go away. But it did. Mostly. And now I'm happy. Marcus reached over and squeezed her hand. That's all I ever wanted for you, Amara. Happiness. You and Marcus Jr., safe and happy and loved. That's everything. We are loved. I know that now. I didn't always know it, but I do now. Good. Because it's true. It's the truest thing in the world. They stopped for ice cream at a little shop on the edge of town. Marcus Jr. woke up just in time to order chocolate with sprinkles. Amara got strawberry. Marcus got vanilla, the same flavor Jasmine had always ordered. They sat at a picnic table outside, watching the last rays of sunlight fade from the sky. I want to do something, Amara said suddenly. When I'm older. Something important. Like what? I don't know yet. Maybe art therapy, helping kids who went through bad stuff like me, using painting and drawing to help them feel better. That's a beautiful idea. You think so? I know so. You'd be amazing at it. Amara smiled. A real smile, one that reached her eyes and lit up her whole face. Thanks, Dad. For what? For believing in me, for being here, for not giving up on us. I would never give up on you. Never, no matter what. I know. She took another bite of her ice cream. That's why I'm happy. They finished their ice cream as the stars came out. Marcus Jr. counted them, pointing at each one and making up names. That one's Bob. That one's Princess Sparkle. That one's Mr. Hamburger. Amara laughed at his silliness. Marcus laughed too. The sound of his children's laughter in the quiet evening air. The stars coming out one by one. The taste of vanilla ice cream on his tongue. Simple things. Ordinary things. the most precious things in the world. They drove home through the darkness past fields and farms and quiet houses with lights in the windows. Marcus Jr. fell asleep again, his head against Amara's shoulder. She held him gently, careful not to wake him. "Dad." "Yeah. I love you." "I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything." "I know. That's why I can say it now. Because I know it's true." And they pulled into the driveway of their house. The lights were on in the kitchen. Maria had waited up for them, probably with dinner ready, even though they'd already had ice cream. Marcus turned off the engine and sat for a moment in the darkness, looking at his children, looking at the home they'd built together, looking at the life that had risen from the ashes of so much pain. "Ready to go inside?" he asked quietly. "Ready," Amara said. They got out of the car. Marcus carried Marcus Jr., who stirred briefly before settling against his shoulder. Amara walked beside him close enough that their arms brushed. The front door opened before they reached it. Maria stood in the doorway, her face warm with welcome. "You're back. Good. I made soup. The boy's favorite. He's asleep. He'll wake up when he smells it. He always does." They went inside together, into the warmth and light, into the smell of Maria's cooking and the sound of soft music playing from the kitchen radio. Into home. Marcus put Marcus Jr. to bed, then came back downstairs to find Amara helping Maria set the table. The two of them were chatting quietly, laughing at some joke he hadn't heard. He stood in the doorway and watched them. His daughter. His almost family. The life he'd almost lost. "You going to stand there all night, or are you going to eat?" Maria asked without turning around. "Just appreciating the view." "Appreciate it while you eat. The soup's getting cold." They sat down together at the kitchen table, said grace, passed the bread, talked about nothing in particular and everything that mattered. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance across the sky. Inside, a family continued theirs. After dinner, Marcus walked through the house alone. He checked on Marcus Jr., who was sleeping peacefully, one arm wrapped around a stuffed elephant. He checked on Amara, who was reading in bed, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her lamp. "Good night, sweetheart." "Good night, Dad." He stood in the hallway for a moment, listening to the quiet sounds of his house. Maria washing dishes in the kitchen. The tick of the grandfather clock in the living room. The soft breathing of his children in their beds. Peace. He'd almost forgotten what it felt like. Marcus went to his own room and sat on the edge of the bed. On the nightstand was a photograph of Jasmine taken the year before she got sick. She was laughing at something, her head thrown back, her eyes full of joy. "I'm trying," he told her. "Every day I'm trying to be the father you would have wanted me to be. I'm not perfect. I still make mistakes, but I'm here now. I'm present. I'm paying attention." He picked up the photograph and held it gently. "I think you'd be proud of them, Jasmine. Amara's so strong, so brave. She's got your compassion, your determination, your fire. And Marcus Jr., he's pure joy, pure love. He smiles the way you used to smile, like the world is full of wonderful things just waiting to be discovered." He set the photograph down. "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry I didn't see what Victoria was doing until it was almost too late. But I promise you, I will spend the rest of my life protecting our children, loving them, being there for them. That's my promise to you, my vow." He lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere out there, Victoria was rotting in a prison cell, facing the consequences of her own cruelty. Diana was serving her own sentence. The system had worked, justice had been done, and the monsters had been locked away. But that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the children sleeping down the hall, the home they'd built, the life they were living. What mattered was love. Marcus closed his eyes and let sleep take him. No nightmares tonight, just peace. And in the morning, his children would be waiting, ready for another day, another chance, another opportunity to heal and grow and become the people they were meant to be. The darkness had come for the Montgomery family. It had tried to destroy them, to break them, to tear them apart. But they had survived. They had healed. They had found their way back to each other. And in the end, that was the only victory that mattered. Love was stronger than cruelty. Light was stronger than darkness. Hope was stronger than despair. The Montgomery family had learned that truth the hardest way possible, and they would never ever forget it.